What's up, you guys? It's Geoffrey again. Today we're doing another creepypasta, and this one's actually a request by one of my fans named Susie. Yeah. Anyways, today's creepypasta we're reading is Barbie.avi. Now, I know it says Barbie in the title, but this definitely does not have to do anything with Barbie, the toy brand. So anyways, let's get started. Hello, this thing happened to me a few months ago. I just need to share it with somebody. It all started at my friend's party. He's an artist who rented out a loft in the industrial part of town. If you can picture a place like Detroit looks like in the 1920s, that's what the area looks like. A bunch of old turn-of-the-century factories crammed into 10 blocks. Most of them are abandoned. So I partied a little too hard that night and decided to crash on the couch at the loft. I woke up at around 4 a.m. The sun was not even out yet, so you could still make things out in the dim blue light. I went to the bathroom, carefully tiptoeing around the people that were passed out on the floor. As I was taking a piss, I tiptoed out to look at the bathroom window, and I saw the panorama view of deserted urban decay. I remembered how much I like places like this. It was so dark and devoid of life and strangely serene. So I went back to the couch and tried to fall asleep. After 45 minutes of staring in the ceiling, I decided I didn't want to be there any longer. So I swallowed my pride and decided to wake my girlfriend up to beg her for a ride, since walking around the vacant streets at the time is not an option. Being an awesome girlfriend, she was totally cool with it, and she told me she would be there in about half an hour and that she would give me a call when she was outside. My phone died 10 minutes later, so I decided I would sit by the window and watch for her car. I sat there for a while and my eyes started growing heavily and I began to doze off. A crashing noise outside woke me up. It wasn't loud, just enough to snap me into reality. I looked out the window and scanned the area, but didn't see anything. Across the street from the loft near a mound of garbage bags and one of those enormous dumpsters, I see a computer and the monitor smashed against the floor that hadn't been there before. When my girlfriend arrived, I went downstairs and greeted her. Just as I was about to get in the car, I remembered a friend of mine who had blown out his power supply. So I decided to walk over to the dumpster and see what I could salvage. The monitor was worthless, but the tower seemed to only suffer no damage. So I put it in the trunk and we drove off. About a week had passed, and I completely forgotten about the tower until my girlfriend called to let me know what was still in the trunk, that she wanted it out. That night I brought it home. Before I took it apart, I decided to hook it up to my monitor to see if it still runs. And to my surprise, it did. It ran Windows XP, and that it looked like it had been wiped clean. So I decided to do some searches for stuff, in hopes of finding some secret stash full of crap and from the previous owner had forgotten about. Morbid curiosity, I guess. Search came up nothing. Search for picture files, nothing. And I searched for movies and one file came up. It was a AVI folder titled Barbie, hidden in the Windows /System32 directory. So I played it. Now this is where it gets really disturbing. The movie was about at least an hour long and was made up of what seemed to be raw explored footage. The footage was of this woman sitting on a chair and talking against a white backdrop. I skipped through most of the movie and it was all this same continuous shot. Then I decided to sit through the footage to find out what she was talking about. 15 seconds into the footage, the audio goes completely bad and her voice is drowned into harsh static, background noise. I couldn't make out a thing. So I imported the footage into the Final Cut and tried to mess with the levels to isolate her voice. It helped a little, but I still couldn't hear what she was saying. I was intrigued now, and I began to really pay attention to her face and body language. It looked like she was being asked some kind of question, because she stops at times to listen, and then continues talking. About 15 minutes in the footage, her face begins to redden and contort as the questions are bothering her. As she continues to answer them anyway, shortly after, she begins to cry. She sobs hysterically for the duration of the film. One of the few words I could lip read was skin. She repeats this word many times throughout this footage, and at one point she even pulls at the skin from her arm and mouths the word. She really seems to be unhappy with her skin. There's much more I have to get off my chest, but it's getting late and I can't go on. I'll share the rest tomorrow. God save my soul. It kept on building and building, and about 40 minutes in, she's crying so hard she could barely look at the camera. She stops talking at this point, and the rest of the footage is just her crying with her head down. Oddly enough, she doesn't get up or move. The screen just fades to black. I was frickin' dumbfounded. I played the whole thing through many times that night, trying to find inflections and nuances in her movement that could reveal anything else about what was going on. I felt so dissatisfied, I wanted to know more. That's when I noticed that there was about 10 more minutes left on the timeline after the screen went black, and about 2 minutes in there was more footage. The footage was extremely shaky, almost unwatchable, and depicts a pair of legs walking along train tracks. My guess is that the camera was accidentally left on as it was being carried somewhere. The person in this footage walks along the train tracks for about 6 minutes, and turns into the forest, walks over what looked like foliage, flanked by a piece of plywood. This person continues onto the makeshift plywood road until the movie clip ends. Now my heart started beating with excitement, because there were train tracks a few miles away that looked very similar to the one in the video. I had to check this out. I called up my friend, Ezra. He's 6 foot 4 inches, 250 pounds of mostly muscle. I convinced him to go on a little adventure with me. I'm no pushover myself, but I felt like if it was going wandering in the woods looking for God knows what, extra muscle wouldn't hurt. This whole idea of investigating this video had me so excited I just couldn't sleep. The next morning, on a sunny Saturday, I took my flashlight, my camera, and my 7-inch Kabar with a matte black finish and serrated edge, and went to pick up Ezra. When I got to his house, he wasn't even awake. When I woke him up, he pretty much told me to fuck off. I was already packed and had mentally prepared myself to do so, so I decided to go through with it without him. I parked my car at the train station, took my stuff, and hopped onto the tracks. After walking about 2 hours, I saw a broken piece of plywood, and my knees almost buckled with excitement. I searched the nearby foliage, and there was a little plywood trail leading into the forest. I walked slowly along the trail, paying close attention to everything. I would stop occasionally, kneel down, and listen for anything or anyone. It was so quiet. This was one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done. I didn't know what to expect at the end of this trail. The dense tree line gave way to this little island, a grassy field. Then I saw it. A house being consumed by the forest. From the looks of it, no one lived there for about 20, maybe 30 years. I got my camera and snapped a few pics. A few yards away from the house, there was a tool shed made of rusty sheet metal. Just sat there among the trees for a while, absorbing everything. I did not want to go into the open field. I had this bad feeling something would see me. It took me a while to muster the courage up to the house. This door was partly open. I pushed it in with a flashlight and was relieved that the inside was actually very well lit. I put my flashlight away, got my camera, and took a few more pics. There was no furniture. The floor was riddled with bricks and wood and rubble. Some of the walls had huge holes in them. When I went in further to explore, I saw some things that I did not pay attention and mind to in that moment. Which I think about them in hindsight, they really do disturb me. The first thing that looked a little odd was that one of the doors in the first room that I presumed led to the basement seemed a little too new to be in this house. It was the only door in the house that was locked, so I made my way up to the second floor. I saw some chairs and a fold-up table that also seemed a little too new to be there. But what disturbed me the most for some reason was the bathroom. The dust on the mirror had been wiped away clean, and in the bathtub, I saw a clear plastic tarp that still had water droplets on it from when I presume was washed clean. That's when I heard someone moan really loud. That's when I jumped the hell out of the second story window and ran back to the tracks. Halfway there, I realized the moaning was just most likely a water pipe expanding or contracting. And that little moment of relief gave into the horror which I felt when I wondered why the water would be running on a abandoned house in the middle of the fucking woods. It's been a little more than 2 months since this happened, and I haven't gone back there, nor do I plan to. Well, that was pretty dark. Now, I'm quite surprised this doesn't have the gore cliche as most creepypastas would. So this kind of really intrigues me, because usually there's gore in creepypastas as well as blood. But this one kind of takes the cake at, not doing that. Now, this person is actually just a actor who, I think is an amputee. I don't know. I'm really vague on the details because, I never read this creepypasta before, so this is a first time. Please note that the original video footage for the Barbie.avi actually consists of 6 parts, but no more than 3 parts were ever uploaded. The only ones that were uploaded were 1, 2, and 4.